everybody. Yeah, it's Marky Billson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. And the name of the program is Tri-City Sports Now. You know what we do? We own the Tri-Cities on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio, because I got the best guests and the hardest-hitting opinions in the market. And if you don't believe me, here's how I line up. Now, Jerry Bonkowski, NBCSports.com, is not going to be able to join me today. But who is going to be able to join me is Tony Page at 1 p.m. Now, he's not a NASCAR guy, okay? They're in Michigan. Next week is the Bristol race, etc., etc., etc. I'll give you that. It's actually a media event going on right now, but hey, I'm going to pass on the free lunch to give you the best in sports coverage, or hardest hitting sports opinion, that sort of thing. Anyway. But here's what you got. Tony Page is a boxing expert. He's also been a long-time sports talk show host on WFAN overnight. I've loved listening to his program over the years, a lot of good baseball stuff, but also really a lot of good boxing stuff. And the highlight of my life was one, well, maybe not the highlight of my life, but I was quite, I remember being the young sports talk show host in my first go-round around here, and back in the 90s. And I had met Tony Page at a boxing event that was being held in Bristol. It was his first time ever in Tennessee. First time he had ever been to Tennessee, New Yorker. And he came down, he called the fights, all this. And I remember talking to him, and I said, I listen to your show. I've always thought that, I loved hearing what you say about how boxing is a good sport to cover, because there's so much going on. I mean, you're covering, Don King and Bob Arum. Think about that. There's a lot to cover there. There's a lot of good quotes they'll give you. And then there are going to be sometimes when Jim Gray says, "That's it, Don. I'm taking the microphone away, and then we're going to go to the next bout here, But, that's the environment. So there's a lot of good stuff to cover. And deaths in the ring. That is something to cover. Yeah, it's a good story. From a journalistic standpoint, call me cold-hearted, but it is. It's not cold-hearted. No, it's not cold-hearted. I'm being objective here. Anyhow, he's going to join me at 1. We're going to talk the state of boxing. I mean, I am going to ask him this. One of the questions I'm going to say is that, I mentioned last week I think boxing needs to get safer. Does it mean that the pros start wearing headgear? Just something like that. I'll give you an example. Dale Earnhardt dies, 2001. What does NASCAR do? They say, look, guys, this is 2001. It's 21st century. You got to have the Hans device. We don't want this happening again. And I can't remember, certainly a NASCAR fatality, since Dale Earnhardt. So what about it? I mean, are there measures? Should the gloves be lighter? Should the rounds be shorter? I mean, you got to do something here. You can't just have 2 fighters pass away in a week. And maybe, are we too comfortable with deaths in the sport? Is this why maybe we're not watching it anymore? Once upon a time, the heavyweight title fight in this country was the Super Bowl. What I mean by that is that the biggest sporting event. So what's the biggest sporting event now in American sports culture? Super Bowl. Every year. Back in the day, I mean, if we're going back to, say, before World War II, easy, that heavyweight title fight, that was the Super Bowl in terms of interest. And you could argue that it continued to go on until, say, the Thrilla in Manila or so. I mean, I remember big fights, how they would have, even in the 80s, when Sugar Ray Leonard fought Marvelous Marvin Hagler. That's what we were talking about in school. I'm not sure that they do that anymore. I'm not even sure who the champion, Manny Pacquiao fought last week. Oh, that's interesting, I mean, that's where we are right now. Is Hayden Panettiere's husband still the heavyweight champ? Is Hayden Panettiere still married to Vladimir Klitschko? Is that still a thing? You know, I mean, that's where we're at when it comes to boxing, really. Years ago, in fact, I remember on another station, and should I protect these? I'll go and you'll love this story. Paul Overbay was once pinch hitting on a sports talk show, and it was, who's the best athlete? This is 1990s. Who's the best athlete? And I said Roy Jones Jr. He didn't know who he was. Yeah. I mean, that's where we are now in boxing, you know. Guy was playing basketball, and he was holding a title, you know. And he was raising gamecocks. That was not so good. But anyway. Next up, we have Josh Brown at 130, Oklahoma Nation. The Braves are in first place, but they're banged up. And is the bullpen any better than it was before they made all these deals? So we'll look at that. I'm curious as to what his takes are in baseball now, you know. Seems as if the Braves do have the division, but what else do they have? That sort of thing. You know, we don't know who the quarterback is going to be at East Tennessee State University. I got to tell you something. As far as interest goes between the University of Tennessee and ETSU, yeah. I mean, as much as I want to say this is Tri-City Sports now, and you know, that we should, you know, keep it local. The Jeffersonian principles of sports. Let's talk it, you know, take care of your own backyard and then worry about the rest of the state. You know, that sort of thing. That being said, you know, the Vols are more popular. And the reason why is they play at a higher level. I mean, let's face it. That's the way it is. That being said, there may be more interest in the Vols. The Buccaneers are a whole lot more interesting, this year at least. And I say that because, look, we do not know who the quarterback is going to be. The Buccaneers could win the Southern Conference this year. They could be a very good team. They could be conceivably, I mean, I'm looking at the preseason rankings, and they're around, you know, what is it? FCS stats had them as the first others receiving votes. So I've seen some polls have them, you know, somewhere around that top 25, okay? Tennessee isn't going to be in the top 25 this year. I mean, imagine what it would take. Absolutely everything would have to go right, and they've already lost another lineman. Tell you about that here in a little bit. But ETSU, who's going to be the quarterback? Who are they going to throw to? Is this the best defense in the SoCon? Could player be drafted by the pros? I mean, there are a lot of great stories here on this team. How long will Quay Holmes have this stellar 4-year career at ETSU and then go to the NFL and become a starting running back? I mean, after the initial freshman year, and I know it's FCS ball, but you're like, that could happen, couldn't it? Buccaneers are a whole lot more interesting than the Volunteers this year. Now, Randy Sanders, head coach, here's a tip. Don't make the drama any greater than it has to be in naming a starting quarterback. Don't keep us waiting. Do not wait until August 31st when ETSU travels to Boone to play Appalachian State to name a quarterback. Do not think that, well, maybe if the Mountaineers don't know who our quarterback is, it'll help us. No, do not do that. You didn't do it last year. You chose Logan Marchie 6 days before the Mars Hill game. Didn't choose the right one. I mean, I could have told you that. You know, I was here a year ago saying, okay, the starting quarterbacks of the two teams next year, Austin Herink and Keller Christ. And I'll stand by that. I'm still not in the Guarantano camp. But when they did name Marchie as the starting quarterback, it was 6 days before the Mars Hill game. So there's a full week to prepare. Logan Marchie's the quarterback, all of that. Okay, it was 7-7 until there was minute 1 left in the third quarter. I give you that too. But, yeah, 3 late touchdowns, you know, for Marchie. He'll always have that. He threw for more than 200 yards against Mars Hill, which is something that Jared Guarantano can only say he's done in a college game 4 times. Marchie still has more 200-yard games, and he's got 2 more, as a matter of fact. But that is becoming a very disturbing trend in college football. We're not going to tell you who the quarterback is until game time. And it doesn't work. It makes the coach look indecisive. It makes the team look weak. We've got to deceive them. We can't beat them ourselves. It potentially sabotages a quarterback's leadership ability. It takes the fan support for granted. We'll love you, whoever you play. And it hasn't worked out well. Take 4 years ago, Bobby Petrino. Remember him? Bobby Petrino, head coach at Louisville. He doesn't name a starter between Lamar Jackson and Reggie Bonifant before the Auburn game. What was he thinking? Bonifant's a running back for the Carolina Panthers. Lamar Jackson, here's his Heisman Trophy. Oh, won the division last year with the Baltimore Ravens. You couldn't figure out who the starting quarterback would be? And then to make even matters worse, because we're going to deceive everyone, opening play sideline reporter, 2 seconds before the kickoff, who's your starting quarterback going to be? Find out when they take the field. The arrogance. And so then he puts out, of all people, he chooses the wrong one. Seems to happen when you wait until the last minute. It's Bonifant. Lines him up at center. Then all of a sudden, shotgun snap to the running back, Lamar Jackson. His first play in college football, the future Heisman Trophy winner. And what does he do? He throws a pick. Auburn scores a touchdown. Later on in the game, Bonifant's trying to play quarterback, messes up an exchange with a running back. It's picked up, run back all the way. Auburn wins 31-24. Gee, you know what? If you had figured out that a future Heisman Trophy winner, a future division-winning quarterback in the NFL should start right away, and we're up front with everyone. I know it's Bobby Petrino, but still, if you were doing that, you probably win the ball game, and you also don't look like a fool for saying, why couldn't he have figured out that Jackson was the man to go with? Cardinals started off 0-3 that year. What's Petrino doing now? I mean, he's not in coaching. How about 2017, Butch Jones' last stand? Yeah, we all think Butch is just the greatest coach, don't we? Yeah. Said firmly, tongue-in-cheek. Well, Quentin Dormady, Jared Guantano, who's it going to be? He doesn't tell us till game time. How'd that work out? And don't give me Tennessee won the game. Do not give me that. Because they won the game because Georgia Tech basically gave it to them. Guy misses a block and a 2-point conversion. In overtime, they turn the ball over twice. That's what lead up to Tennessee touchdowns. That's why Georgia Tech lost that game. Tennessee didn't win it. Georgia Tech lost it. If a team's so intent on deception, they probably aren't focusing enough on their own game plan and fundamentals. ETSU is not going to beat Appalachian State, period, but they got to suit up. So let's try to figure out a game plan for it. It's not going to be because, Eli Drinkwitz doesn't know who the ETSU quarterback is going to be. There's no film on any of them running the Buccaneers offense. None of them have taken a snap for the Buccaneers. What are you trying to deceive people with? If the Buccaneers are to win that game, you know how it happens. Quay Holmes has a big day, and the ETSU defense has a monster game. Both the fans and the team deserve to know who their leader is going to be as soon as possible. Now, you don't believe me? Remember the Chattanooga game last year? It was Austin Herring's job. He had just led the Buccaneers back against Furman. And here's Randy Sanders. Well, I'm going to play them both in practice. And, I won't make a decision until game time. What happens? The Buccaneers scored 10 points. Lowest output against an FCS team all year long. If Quay Holmes doesn't take a Herring screen pass 54 yards to the house, they don't win that game. They won it 17-14 on a defensive touchdown, if you recall. And you know what? That screen pass doesn't happen. How about this? Mocs probably win. Marchie's probably the quarterback the next week. It didn't help out ETSU one lick that Chattanooga didn't know it was going to be Herring or it was going to be Marchie. And quite frankly, if you were Chattanooga and you were trying to prepare, would you really have prepared for Marchie? Well, he could start. Really? Who are you trying to kid? A coach should not make a hasty decision on who the QB is, but that's 6 days before, even though Sanders chose the wrong one. Yeah, that's about right. Week to prepare, maybe a little bit sooner. Who knows? A quarterback should not be named the starter when it's too late. The day of the game, too late! I'm Marky Billson. When I return, I'm going to talk a little more college football, and I'm going to talk, we got a new rule, actually an old rule. The NCAA screws up again, and let's talk about the player for Tennessee that's leaving. Let's talk about the preseason players for ETSU. It's all coming up on Tri-City Sports Now.